Imagine trying to achieve like literal godlike spiritual enlightenment.
Hmm.
What is your very first step? Are you going to meditate on a secluded mountaintop for a decade?
Right. Or maybe fast until you have visions or something.
Exactly. I mean, for most of us, those are the standard tropes. But what if the path to divinity actually started by obsessively checking your customer satisfaction scores on a Dutch hotel booking website?
It is definitely a wild concept to wrap your head around.
It really is. You are about to hear a completely different take on personal actualization today, and it might just change how you view your next interaction with a stranger.
Yeah, because we are looking at a deeply unconventional roadmap to transcendence here. It bypasses the monastery entirely and goes straight to the hospitality industry.
We are jumping right into a single, incredibly rich source today. It's a 2021 essay titled Shufeng's Narcissism. I must look and act as a messenger of the greatest creator.
Authored by a man named Schwiffing, of course.
Right, translated by Kinyu and edited by Kinnear. And our mission on this deep dive is to unpack how this author connects the aggressively mundane world of hotel customer service.
We're talking online reviews, clean clothes, polite small talk.
Yes, all of that. To profound, almost spiritual self-actualization.
To understand how he makes that massive leap, we really have to establish his core philosophy right out of the gate.
Which is pretty unique.
Very. For Zwifeng, the prime directive of human existence, like the absolute most important thing a person can do is to make themselves happy every single day.
Right.
He argues that when external influences fail to provide that joy, when the universe just refuses to hand you a good day, you are obligated to manufacture it.
You have to force it, basically.
Exactly. You must find ways to entertain, amuse, and frankly, love yourself.
Oh.
And he proudly embraces this, stating outright that he is a person who can make himself happy every day.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because saying, I make myself happy every day, that's the easy part.
Oh, for sure.
Anyone can look in the mirror and declare they have good vibes. How does someone actually prove that to the outside world without sounding, well, entirely delusional?
That is where the essay pivots, and it's fascinating. It goes from this vague metaphysical philosophy into a highly empirical, almost bureaucratic methodology.
He brings out the spreadsheets.
He really does.
Right.
He doesn't rely on a journal of positive affirmations. He wants to prove mathematically that he is, in his own words, a talent.
Right.
So to do this, he conducted a 4-year self-audit using government tax bills.
Wait, really? He didn't just, look at a guest book on the front desk. He went through 4 years of official tax records.
Straight to the financial receipts. According to those tax records, he hosted over 800 guests in that span.
Wow.
And he breaks down the demographics with this intense, granular specificity to prove the global nature of his appeal.
Oh, yeah. He is very specific about this. I have the breakdown here. He notes that 70% of his guests were from Europe, mostly Germany. 20% came from the U.S., Canada, and Australia. 6% were from Japan, South Korea, and Hong Kong. And then the remaining 4% were from elsewhere.
So he is being tested by the entire globe, essentially.
Right. But simply having people sleep in your building, that doesn't prove you are happy or a talent. I mean, it just proves you own a building.
Exactly. Which brings us to his ultimate validation metric. He cross-references this global audience with a specific booking website, and he discovers that 98% of those guests gave him full marks in their messages.
90% is huge.
It is. But the crucial detail here is that they rarely gave the hotel itself full marks.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the physical building or the amenities might have been, aggressively average.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect scores were awarded exclusively for his personal service.
And he places a massive amount of weight on the platform itself. He emphasizes heavily that this booking website is controlled by a Dutch agency.
Yes, he does.
Which is so specific. Why does a Dutch algorithm matter so much to his spiritual validation?
Well, what's fascinating here is how he views the Dutch system as the epitome of strict, unbending, objective reality.
Because it's rigid.
Exactly. He points out that there is absolutely no chance for him to game the system. He couldn't, hire a shill or ask a friend to write a fake review.
Because the platform requires a verified booking.
Right.
And the payment of a commission fee.
Right. By using a system that requires an actual financial transaction to leave a review, he guarantees the absolute integrity of his data.
It's like relying on your Uber passenger rating, not just to feel like a polite customer, but as literal empirical proof that your soul is pure.
That is a perfect analogy.
I mean, he's basically outsourcing his spiritual validation to a booking algorithm.
He really is. He grounds an incredibly grandiose title, remember. The essay literally calls him the messenger of the greatest creator in cold, indisputable capitalism.
Right, whereas most people claiming spiritual elevation rely on, I don't know, invisible energies.
Or private mystical visions that literally no one else can verify.
Exactly.
Sui-Feng takes the exact opposite route. He uses the machinery of global commerce, tax bills, Dutch algorithms, commission fees, as his empirical proof of a divine calling.
He isn't asking you to take a leap of faith. He's asking you to audit his spreadsheet.
Yes.
But, if you are listening to this and thinking, well, this sounds like a very fragile way to build self-esteem, you have to wonder about the breaking point.
Oh, absolutely.
If the algorithm is the ultimate judge of his divine talent, what happens when it spits out a bad verdict? Because out of 800 guests, a 98% success rate still leaves a 2% margin of error.
Right. We definitely have to talk about the single 5 out of 10 review.
Yes.
It is the one real blemish on his 4-year record.
I was so hoping we would get here because his reaction to this failing grade is just a masterclass in psychological defense.
It really is.
He receives this 5 out of 10, and he's completely baffled.
Yeah.
But instead of questioning his hospitality, he sits down and deduces 2 possible scenarios for why this guest scored him so low.
And they're both amazing.
Theory 1. The guest had recently been severely scolded by his own sister-in-law, had nowhere else to vent his frustration, and simply took it out on his hotel host.
Just incredible projection. Or theory 2, which is my personal favorite. The guest fell asleep and had a vivid dream where Zhu Feng abducted that same sister-in-law, and the guest woke up holding a grudge about the dream.
I'm really struggling to decide which theory is better.
They are both so specific.
But notice how he completely insulates his ego here. The system is flawless, his service is flawless, therefore the outlier data point, it just has to be the result of a rogue sister-in-law or a subconscious dream state.
It functions as a brilliant psychological shield. He just outright refuses to internalize the bad review as a flaw in his own methodology.
And to be fair, when the methodology works, it yields pretty spectacular results.
Oh, totally.
He contrasts this outlier with a story of a young couple who stayed for just one night. Their room rate was equivalent to about 156 Canadian dollars, and they left a $20 tip.
A very solid tip.
Right. But the real prize was the review they left, declaring him a host worthy of $1 million.
To which he immediately clarifies in the essay that he hopes they meant Canadian dollars, not Zimbabwean or Venezuelan currency.
I love that.
Yeah.
The man definitely has a distinct sense of humor.
And that humor is actually a critical pillar of his operational methodology. He doesn't just wing these interactions at the front desk.
No, he is very deliberate.
Extremely. He outlines very specific rules for extracting these $1 million reviews. It starts with physical presentation.
It's a hair.
Yes. He explicitly states that he combs his hair every single day so it lies smooth, quote, as if licked by a cow.
That is such a vivid visual. Just the level of meticulous grooming just to interact with strangers passing through.
Yeah, and from the clean clothes and cow-licked hair, he moves straight into behavioral engineering. He mandates the use of humor, particularly when dealing with Westerners.
Yeah.
He uses this play on words, suggesting you find some ink, which sounds like the Chinese word for humor, and you use it to dye the guests, coloring their mood to make them happy.
But the smile rule is what really caught my attention the most.
Oh, the smile rule is fascinating.
He writes that you must always smile, but you can never grin evilly or laugh obsessively. And he is highly specific about boundaries, noting that you absolutely cannot look at female guests as if looking at a sister-in-law, or they will call the police on you.
The sister-in-law archetype makes another appearance.
It does. It's everywhere.
For Shui Feng, this figure seems to really represent fraught, uncontrollable interpersonal dynamics.
Right, like chaos.
Exactly.
Right.
The hotel environment, by contrast, is an arena he can entirely control through these rigid behavioral rules.
I'm struggling with this, though. I mean, if you are listening to this breakdown, you might be having the exact same reaction I am.
Which is?
He's talking about manipulating his smiles so the police don't get called.
Mm-hmm.
He is deploying calculated humor just to extract good reviews from Westerners. How can he claim this leads to profound spiritual actualization if the entire performance is so incredibly calculated? It sounds less like genuine hospitality and more like a cynical operation designed solely to feed his own ego.
I get that, But that tension is exactly what makes the essay brilliant rather than just a weird customer service manual.
Okay, how so?
Well, he isn't hiding the ball from the reader at all. The title literally contains the word narcissism.
That's true.
He openly admits that he is coaxing strangers to hand him their money while simultaneously complimenting him. But he doesn't view this calculation as cynical. He views it as a symbiotic mechanism
Wait, how does manipulating people for compliments become symbiotic?
because of the prerequisite for his own happiness. In his framework, he cannot be truly happy. His ego literally cannot be fed unless the person standing in front of him is genuinely thrilled.
No.
So yes, it is a highly calculated performance. Yes, it is designed entirely to feed his own narcissism. But the specific method he has chosen to feed that narcissism requires him to provide impeccable, joyful, deeply attentive service to another human being.
Wow.
He has weaponized his own need for validation, aligning his narcissistic supply with the literal delivery of joy to others.
So he is basically saying, look, I am doing all of this entirely for me, but the only way the math works is if your day becomes fantastic in the process.
Exactly. It turns the traditional concept of narcissism completely on its head. Usually we think of narcissism as a toxic trait that isolates a person and drains everybody around them.
Right, an energy vampire.
Yes, but Yue Feng takes that exact same psychological drive and channels it into a rigorous discipline of serving others.
That is wild. Now, we have been talking about this on a very micro level so far, right? Like a random tourist staying for a single night, leaving a tip, and vanishing. But the essay reveals that he doesn't stop there. He takes this exact same symbiotic framework and scales it up to a macroeconomic level. We move from transient hotel guests to much deeper long-term relationships.
He expands the timeline significantly here, yeah. He explains that he has been applying this methodology on a much larger scale for 15 or 16 years.
Right.
He claims to have made hundreds of what he calls Chanyuan celestials happy.
And just for anyone unfamiliar with the term, Chanyuan Celestials refers to members of his broader intentional community.
Yes.
These aren't people just passing through. These are individuals who have committed to his philosophy and way of life over a decade and a half.
And scaling up the operation like that naturally changes the nature of the data he collects. He is no longer relying purely on Dutch booking algorithms.
Right. You can't leave a booking review for a 15-year relationship.
Exactly. So he notes that over 170 of these celestials have written deep, emotional articles specifically praising him.
He describes the feeling of reading those articles as feeling incredibly beautiful, almost like he is physically sleeping on clouds.
That's quite the image.
It is. And then, right after establishing this heavenly feeling, he drops a line that causes severe conceptual whiplash.
Oh, this part is amazing.
He states that after 15 years of this effort, if he were still unhappy, he would feel as if he were betraying Chairman Mao himself.
It's a huge pivot. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look at how he utilizes cultural touchstones to build his argument.
Yeah, unpack that for us.
Well, he is taking three completely distinct languages of authority and blending them together seamlessly.
Okay.
First, he uses the modern metrics of global customer service, conversion rates, tips, online reviews. Second, he uses the lofty terminology of spiritual elevation, referring to his community as celestials and himself as a messenger.
Right.
And then third, he invokes mid-20th century political reverence.
It is just such a jarring pivot to go from complaining about bad hotel reviews to invoking a major historical figure like that.
It is definitely jarring, but it serves a highly specific rhetorical purpose within the essay.
How so?
Well, regardless of any political stance on the historical figure, invoking that name in Su Feng's specific cultural context establishes an absolute benchmark for obligation.
Like a duty.
Exactly. He isn't making a political statement about mid-20th century policies. He is borrowing a universally recognized symbol of ultimate authority and collective duty.
Ah, I see.
By making that comparison, he elevates the act of being happy and the act of making others happy from a personal lifestyle choice to a supreme civic mandate. He is arguing that failing to find joy through serving others is a betrayal of the highest possible order.
If you are listening to this and thinking, well, this is a bizarre mix of concepts, you aren't alone.
Not at all.
He has basically built an impenetrable fortress around his own happiness. He uses the empirical data from the hotel to prove his immediate value. He uses the emotional essays from his community to prove his long-term value. And he uses historical rhetoric to prove the absolute necessity of his mission.
It's airtight.
It really is. And all of this groundwork culminates in what I consider the philosophical peak of the essay.
Yes, this is where the 15-year feedback loop of customer service and celestial praise triggers a major realization about the nature of divinity itself.
He completely redefines what it means to be chosen by a higher power.
He really does.
When we hear the phrase, messenger of the greatest creator, we usually imagine like a prophet parting a sea or someone performing miracles.
Or someone who has detached entirely from the material world, right?
Exactly. Suifeng rejects all of that. He reveals his grand epiphany. A messenger of the greatest creator is simply someone who can make everyone in the world happy. That is the entire job description.
He relocates the definition of divinity away from magic and supernatural power and drops it squarely into the realm of human joy and emotional labor.
And to explain the magnitude of this kind of happiness, he uses this incredible metaphor. He writes that if you make people truly, deeply happy, they will feel glorious, even if they are wearing split pants.
Split pants being a garment traditionally associated with toddlers in certain cultures or, a symbol of extreme poverty and raggedness.
Right.
It represents a state of total vulnerability or a complete lack of material dignity.
And he builds on that, saying that when people are in this state of profound happiness, they will feel that pickled vegetables and coarse foods are more delicious than any exotic delicacies.
He is arguing that the emotional environment he provides completely overrides material reality.
That's powerful.
Yeah, the physical world, the cheap clothes, the coarse food, it all ceases to matter if the emotional service is perfect.
So, what does this all mean for us? To me, it feels like he is completely democratizing the idea of a divine calling.
Yes.
He is taking this lofty, untouchable concept of being a messenger and turning it into an actionable item. You don't need to be born with magical powers.
Not at all.
You just need to make the person standing in front of you so profoundly comfortable, so deeply seen and entertained that their coarse food tastes like a feast.
You've isolated the core beauty of his argument there, which also highlights its central, fascinating contradiction.
The narcissism part.
Right. He titles the piece Narcissism. He is incredibly transparent about wanting to be praised, wanting the high scores, and wanting to sleep on clouds of compliments. Yet his ultimate final ambition is entirely service-oriented. His goal is to make thousands of people happy, and eventually to make everyone in the world happy.
And his reasoning for wanting to make everyone happy is still rooted in that narcissism, isn't it?
Exactly. Why does he want to make the entire world happy? So that they will organically, of their own free will, declare him the messenger.
He wants them to do the work.
Right. He refuses to just declare it himself in a vacuum. He wants the aggregate joy of humanity to force the title upon him as an objective fact.
Oh.
It is an incredibly self-centered motivation that miraculously results in completely selfless, exhausting, meticulous work.
It's like the ultimate win-win scenario for society. He gets to feel like a divine messenger, and the rest of us get perfectly combed hosts, great jokes, and exceptional service.
It creates a closed loop where his ego and the public good are perfectly aligned.
It really is a wild journey we've been on today. We started with a man sorting through his tax bills and obsessing over the anti-fraud mechanisms of a Dutch booking website.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We learned the vital importance of having hair licked by a cow and avoiding the gaze of an imaginary sister-in-law. And we ended up at a grand philosophical ambition for total global happiness.
They're at a bad place to land.
Not at all. And it all brings us back to you, the listener. The next time you are having one of those terrible days, the next time you wake up under a heavy cloud and desperately need a mood boost, maybe consider Shuofeng's method.
It's worth a shot.
You certainly don't have to open a hotel or start auditing your tax returns. But maybe focusing intensely on making someone else's day a little brighter, making them laugh, giving them excellent service in whatever mundane interaction you find yourself in is actually the most effective way to fix your own mood.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit narcissistic to do a good deed, primarily to feel good about yourself, but, well, if the end result makes you feel like you are sleeping on clouds, maybe that narcissism is worth embracing.
I think that is a highly practical takeaway for everyday life.
Right.
But unpacking this essay also leaves us with one final, deeper question to mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Let's hear it.
If the ultimate measure of a divine calling, or even just the measure of a successful life, is simply the aggregate happiness of the strangers you interact with and serve, Does the internal motivation actually matter in the end?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. If the final result is a world full of people who feel glorious in their split pants, does it really matter if the person who got them there was driven by pure, selfless love or by cheerfully admitted narcissism?
That is a phenomenal question to chew on. Is the tangible action always more important than the hidden intent?
Hmm.
A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive. Go out there, smooth your hair down, find some good ink to make a stranger laugh, and we'll catch you next time. Have a great day.